We are ready to proceed to the next step. So in the last video, I started round 7 and then I went through, several rows, and it's basically just a single crochet in each stitch all the way around. And, so I didn't go all the way to the end of round 14. Here we go. This is our partially finished head. And, at this point, the notes tell you that the pattern tells you that it's a good idea to stop and measure. And, you should be at about 1.5 inches at this point. If you're not, you will want to, if you're a lot bigger than 1.5 inches, you might want to take out a row or two. And if you're, nowhere, near 1.5 inches, you may want to, you may want to add more rows. So, you may need to add rows or take rows away, depending on, where you are. Me, I'm, see if I can push that over here and I go like that. I'm right about at 1 inch and just a little bit over 1.5 inches, but it's, within normal limits. So I'm okay with continuing on to round 15. Round 15 is when we're going to start doing our decrease, and we're going to do an invisible decrease. So it's important that you all kind of do the invisible decrease to lessen the chances of holes. Really and truly, it's a huge benefit. Let me see if I'm going to try to lower this down just a tiny bit. There we go. And so we're going to go ahead and start with that round 15. So we've got, this little gizmo's already on my, I'm just going to do that. Okay, we've already discussed that, so I'm not going to go into detail about that one. Otherwise, if you want to know more, this is your first video, go back to see the other videos first. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 single crochets. Once again, this is the beginning of my row. I know it is. And then I know I'm on 14 personally because I can count. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so now I'm starting 15, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And this may be a bit of a long video because we're gonna try to go through the whole process of finishing all the way to the end. So we're probably gonna go all the way through on this one. Hopefully, we'll see. This is the invisible decrease. Okay, guys. So the invisible decrease is gonna go over the next 2 stitches. All right. And so what you want to do for the invisible, that on a stitch you'll have the back loop and the front loop. On the invisible, you're going to want to go through just the front loop, okay? And on the first one, and then you're going to want to go through just the front loop on the next one. And so that kind of, looks like this, where we just go through the front loop. And I just got that front loop, and that's it. All right. And then I'm going to whip this hook around, and I'm going to loop it underneath, and I'm going to grab just the front loop of that next stitch. All right. Y'all see that? All right. So now we go ahead and finish off that decrease. So we bring in the stitch under those first 2. And then we go ahead and close it off. And here it's super duper important that you wiggle, wiggle, wiggle and make sure that's really, really tight. Because if you're going to have holes, I do tend to find that holes show up when we decrease. When we start coming, when the head starts reducing in size. And that's because you're pulling these 2 stitches together. And then what happens is on the next one, which is this one right here, and if you're having a tough time figuring out which is your next one, if you're like, oh, I don't know if it's this one or if it's this one, then you might want to put a marker on that next one. I'll do that on the next decrease so you can see what I'm talking about. But anyway, so then we wiggle, 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 and then we're going to go ahead and proceed with repeating that again. We're going to put 1 single crochet in the next 4. And on this first single crochet, you definitely want to pull and tighten, because generally speaking, that's where the hole shows up. So tighten. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's through both loops. That's like a regular single crochet using the yarn under technique once again. So now once again, I mentioned you can put a marker. So I'm going to get my safety pin. You can get a marker if you're having a tough time finding that third stitch. So you've got these two. I'm going to go, we're going to decrease over these two. So I'm going to put the marker on the third one. This is just for those of you that are having a tough time finding it. And I'm going to go ahead and do my decrease. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do that again. So that's 1 and 2, and pull through, and we're just going through the front loop. Pull through and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And now I can easily see where that next single crochet is going to go. I can take this off. See what I mean? So using those little markers, to in advance, not necessarily marking the end of the row, but just to mark where that next stitch is going to go in case it decides to, squeeze out and hide on you. Is a good little tip that we've picked up along the way. So that's 4. We're going to go ahead and decrease again, and I have my son here today in the background making lots of noise because that's just what he does. Golly, I sure hope there are no holes on this one when we're all said and done. But it's okay. We're really... I mean, I still get holes. I made one a couple months back, and I stuffed the head, and there was a hole. And, well, it is what it is. Can't use it. But that's okay. I use it as a demonstration head. So, you can always use them for something. 1, 2, 3, and 1 more. 4. Okay, we're almost all the way around. Obviously, we're going to do that 6 times because we got, just keep in mind, we basically, even though it's in a circle, obviously, it's basically six sides, and that continues all the way through. You'll have 6, 6, 6, 6, increasing 6 times, decreasing 6 times, or no, actually, we don't really decrease the full 6 times on this one, but you'll see what I'm talking about later. Because we don't go all the way to making full circle. Okay, where am I at? I already lost count. Okay, there's my decrease. So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm on my last 2, and that will bring me right back around to where I started. There we go. All right. So now I'm back to where I started. There's my little marker that shows me I'm right back to where I started. Okay, so that's basically, that was round 15. Round 16 and 17, super easy. It's just single crochet all the way around. Super duper easy. I don't think you need to see me go around 2 times, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and hopefully I can get it restarted. If not, then I don't know if I can merge videos because I'm not a big, videographer, very, good one. So I'm going to try, and well, if I have to do a separate segment, I'll have to do a separate segment. Then the segment will just be how to get through rounds 15 through 17, but I have a feeling I'll be able to pause it and then restart it here in a few minutes. So I'll be right back after I'm done with round 17, and that's basically going around 2 times, okay? Okie dokie. So I've already finished rounds 16 and 17. Double check, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15 was my decrease. round, and then we've got 16 and 17, which are just single crochet in each stitch around. And everything's looking pretty good. Now, on the pattern, at this point I'm going to stop and I'm going to do my eyes. On the pattern, it indicates that you may want to embroider the features after round 14 before you start decreasing. And, you know, that's okay. You can pretty much, you know, do the eyes whenever you want. A little, you know, some things that, let's talk about the eyes. You do not need to put eyes on. Number one, the babies don't notice whether it has an eye or not. So, or 2 eyes or 3 eyes or whatever. They don't really care. So you don't need to. If you find that that's just too much for you, you don't need to do that. There are approved materials you can use for the eyes. Personally, I love this cotton in black for all my eyes. I make all my eyes the same. All my eyes look like this. They've been from the day one. I played around with different designs. I came up with this design, and I've been using this design ever since. So they're very distinctive, and I always know which are my octos because I don't know that anybody else uses that style of eye. So I personally prefer to put my eyes on after this round, after 17, because when I look at a real octopus, I see that their eyes are kind of lower down on the head because they got a really big top, you know. And so I like to put mine on right now. Thing about the eyes is you cannot on your embroidery stitches go more than one stitch. Okay, so you'll see that we'll do this, you know, from one stitch to the next, and you know, I'll go through that process. Another thing, you know, depending on what color yarn you're using for your eyes, you might find that you might see the yarn underneath, you know, when you after you stuff. You know, it might look like it's a hole, but because it's black and it's contrasting against this lighter fabric, but and you may be tempted to shove it in there and try to hide it, and all you're going to end up doing is creating a hole that will fail the octopus. So just leave it alone. It's no big deal. All right. If the tail part of the eye, the black yarn you use or whatever you use, if you see it through, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's very slight on this particular octo, on that particular corner, and you can see it on the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and stop crocheting for a second. I'm going to go ahead and embroider my eye. I have my little itty bitty ball of yarn. Thankfully, I have another skein waiting for me because I'm probably going to need some. I'm just going to cut a piece. I don't know, this piece for me is probably about 2 feet long, about 24 inches. Then I'm going to get my number 18 needle. I'm going to try to get it in there because my eyes are getting a little bit worse every year. You know, I don't have my reading glasses, okay? For me, I put my, my hook in between rows, that would be 15, 16, 17. So between 15 and 16, generally speaking, across from the start, the back side. Then I go ahead and go through. I leave a space there. And I'm going to go ahead and go across, up 1, and across, up to the left 1. That's for me. I mean, you can, I mean, the national group, they actually, in their files section, they have a number, like a whole file of like different diagrams that you can use. I'm going to come back here, back across, down 1. I'm going to go across, skip 1. I'm going to cross. I'm skipping on the back, so that's okay. Cross 1. Just the front cannot skip more than 1. There you go. And then down across like that. That one. Okay, then I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the back. And the reason we don't want more than 1 is because if for whatever reason this gets loose, it really won't, because I mean it's so tight, it's going to head so tight, but we don't want any little fingers or anything being able to get underneath, and you know, if you've got a big, you know, gap, then you know, you don't want little hands in there. So obviously the hands are going to be inside the head. So it's a different matter on the inside, but the outside we cannot go more than 1. And then I'm going to go across, up and to the left one, and then down into the left one through the back. And then I'm going to come back up and to the right to that one, and I go down to that one right there. Voila. And then I finish off the eyes. Okay. So now we got to tie everything down real nice and tight on the back. I'm going to flip this inside out just a little bit. See if I can hide it. I'm going to pick up a couple of stitches here, which is probably why you're going to probably see the black on the other side a little bit, but these are back stitches. These are in the back. These are kind of the inside, so they won't be as noticeable. And go ahead and pull that through one time. And I'm going to go back through again. And I'm going to go around once, pull in a little bit, go around a second time, and pull it all the way and squeeze it down. So now that's all nice and tight in there. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut off about an inch. Okay. Let's stick that back inside. Now go ahead and get my needle again, go to the back to the beginning tail, and I'm going to go ahead and do that to the other side. And one. Just go through. Pretty good. And two. Go through. Go through again. And squeeze. Push down. And put that needle away. Cut. All right, we're good to go. So now we got Irene's eyes. All right, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and now proceed with the next decreasing round, which is going to be round 18. We're on the last decrease we did 4. We did a single crochet in 4 and then decrease, and on this one we're going to do decrease single crochet in 3 and decrease. So we're kind of gradually tapering this head down to where it creates that bottom hole. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and decrease again. Once again, that's going to be 3. I believe I already did my first one. Let me see if my little marker is. I mean, at this point it's 1, 2. Yeah, 2 and 3. And decrease once again. Invisible decrease. Grabbing the first loop only in the next 2 single crochets, and then wiggle, wiggle, and then on the next one being very, very, very tight, because that's where our hole will be. So that's 1, 2, and 3, and we're just plugging along. Decrease 1, 2. Regular single crochet. 1, 2. I promise. I know I've said this before, but man, if you already know how to crochet, if you have made booties, or you have made doilies, or you have made mittens or hats, you can do this. It's not the easiest thing in the world, I'm not gonna lie, okay, but if your hands aren't, if your hands, you got carpal tunnel or something, then this may not be for you. But if you've got relatively strong hands, and I don't really have strong hands, I'm fortunate I do not have an ailment that prevents me from doing this. So, and God forbid that ever happened, because I just don't know what I would do. You see what? Do you see what I did? I forgot to put my thing back on. It's sticking. And that's just, you know, just working almost halfway around, a little over halfway around the head. Okay, go back to it. So I am on the third, and decrease again. I can kind of tell, you know, where the decrease is just by looking at it. I can recognize a decrease. You know, if you can't, then, and you're, you know, afraid you're going to forget or whatever, use a marker. You know, it's not a big deal if you use a marker. You know, and ultimately, you know, so long as you do 6 decreases around the row, back again, back to where I started. This is my start one, so I'm good to go. But so long as you do, you know, 6 decreases, it's somewhat a little bit forgiving, because so long as you do 6 decreases somewhere around as you go around, then you're good to go. Because at the end of the day, what matters is how many stitches you have when you finished your round. And, you know, in this particular one, we should have 24. I'm not going to go through the process of counting them because I'm, you know, about 99.99999% sure that there's that many here. But, you know, so long as you have that, you're good to go. So, okay, so we've gone ahead and finished round 18. Round 19 and 20 are very similar to 16 and 17, because all you're doing is just single crocheting around the circle. 24 single crochets all the way around. No decreasing involved. You do that 2 times. So you decrease the first time, and then you go 2 rows of just regular non-decreasing rows, and then you decrease again, and then you do 2 rounds of not decreasing rows, and then you decrease again, and that's going to be where we're going to pick up here. I'm going to go ahead and pause this video for a second, because I'm just going to go around 2 times, and I'm just single crocheting around. Nothing really spectacular to see here. So I think we've seen a lot of these stitches, these, you know, regular single crochet yarn unders. So we're just going to pause the video until I finish. Let me finish these 2 rounds, and then we're going to pick up on the next decreasing round. Okay, so right now I am going to finish up 19 and 20. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. I am, you know, as I was going around, I thought to myself, you know what can I do right now that, you know, would help explain something? And it occurred to me that I haven't done a video at all about how to deal with a break. You know, let's say you have a break in your yarn, or let's say you didn't roll a ball up in the yarn. Remember at the very first video, I think I went over how I use this. I love this cotton yarn, and how I make them into little balls, and how if I find that there's a knot inside the skein, I'll cut that knot, so that all my balls I know do not have knots. But not everybody wants to do that. So let's say you're working straight from the skein, and let's say that you you know, come across, and we're just going to pretend that, you know, there's not. Okay, let's just say you're working along, and you know, you find that there's a knot. What do I do? Okay, so we do not trust factory knots in this project. We are going to get rid of that knot. Bye. And we're going to rejoin the yarn. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I am currently on I'm on row 20. 20. I'm on row 20. So I'm going to show you how to join another piece. Okay, so we've got this piece, And I'm just going to do this one right here to make sure I have enough yarn. You want to have enough yarn, okay, to tie everything together. This is how you join, okay? You're going to go ahead and push through top two, okay, both, all right? You're going to pull through one using your the yarn you still have, okay? Then you're going to go ahead and drop that one, and you're going to pick up the new one, okay? I'm just going to stick it here for a second, all right? And then you're going to pull and finish off the single crochet using that new one. Personally, I like to go ahead and do another one time, okay? And then I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Now I've got my two ends that I have to deal with, all right? Okay. These two ends. All right. I'm going to pull and both of them, kind of wiggle them until I close up that space and make it nice and tight. You don't want to pull too much. You just want to make that second one, that new one, the same as the one before. Okay? Once you get it about there, okay, then go ahead and take your two ends and tie them off. Go one time, nice and tight. And then we're going to go a second time, nice and tight. All right. At this point, it's good to go. We can go ahead and trim that. And then those two ends are going to stay inside the head. And that's what you do when you have to join yarn, when you accidentally come across a knot or you run out, you know. I try to make the most use of all the yarn that I have. Let me just keep going. I try to make the most use of all the yarn that I have. So, you know, I have quite a few bags of like this, and you know, I'll go through and you know, when I'm running low on yarn, I'll go back to those little bags and I'll start using those bags to make octos. A lot of this yarn that I'm using ever since the local group went public, I've gotten quite a few donations, and so a lot of the yarn that I'm using right now is donated, and I really appreciate all the donations of yarn. I know the other ladies that are making them also appreciate the donations of yarn, and I make sure I make the most use of every, you know, ounce of yarn that I get. So, you know, even if a ball is, you know, 10 grams, I'll keep it, and you know, eventually I'll probably have another ball that's 10 grams, and then another ball that's, you know, enough to make a full octo. Okay, I am back to the beginning. I'm actually 2 into the next round, and the next round is round 21. So now I'm done with 19 and 20, and now I'm going on to round 21. Round 21 is 1 single crochet in 2 stitches and then a decrease. Okay, so I've already done 2 based on my marker. 1, 2. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and decrease here. Now, okay, the first 2 rounds, the first 3 rounds are definitely the hardest, I would say, in this whole pattern. You get through those 2, you can get through the rest of the head. Promise. The next challenging part, you know, for me, are these next rounds that follow, these last ones, because you're working in such a tight space. The hole's getting smaller. I'm trying to, you know, hold it and push back with these fingers and give me the, bless you, and give me the leverage I need to get the hook back around. Try not to get out the camera. and it's getting a little harder and a little tighter. So, you know, take your time. Take your time. Go around. Fortunately, it isn't as many because we're decreasing. So every time you decrease, you're reducing the number of stitches you have to do by 6 every round. Every time you decrease, you know, every time you have a decrease round, you have 6 less stitches to worry about the next time around. So there we go. One, almost 2. This video is going to be a long video, but we're almost done. We're on the stretch, the home stretch. 1 and 2, round of decrease. Come on, get on in there. You know, and I don't know where that joining was, but, you know, because we were able to make those stitches the same, then I really didn't even notice that there was a decrease somewhere around there along the way. Okay, I think I might have messed up, but I should have 18, but I think I was talking too much, so let me count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Nope, I'm good. Okay, for some reason I think I decreased more times than I should have in here. Yeah, right here. I can see it now. I decreased there. I only did 1, and then I decreased again. So I did an extra decrease over here. That's why I didn't end with a decrease. But that's okay. Like I said before, so long as you do your 6 decreases around, and you have the same number around at the end when you end up with your back at your marker, then it's okay. It's okay. You know, ultimately, our goal is to get the, you know, right amount of stitches around. Now you certainly don't want to do your 6 decreases right next to each other, because then it's going to look all wobbly. At this point, I was talking and I kind of skipped, or I, you know, advanced a decrease before I should have. But if you do the 6 decreases like one right after another, then you'll have a really tight spot back here, and you'll have a really flat spot back here, and it won't look right. So at this point, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. So now we are done with 21. We're going to go down to 22. 22 is just single crocheting around, and once again, it is going to be, you know, a little bit more difficult because